When Lauren Huxley moved into the sleepy town of Beachwell, nobody paid much attention. She was polite, soft-spoken, and always wore the same neutral-colored sweaters. The house she bought sat at the end of Alder Street, a weather-beaten two-story with overgrown ivy and a squeaky gate. The neighbors assumed she was recently divorced or simply private. What they didn't know was that Lauren wasn't her real name, and the life she'd left behind was far from ordinary. Two years earlier, Lauren had been Dr. Elaine Parker, a forensic chemist at a top pharmaceutical company in London. She'd helped design a new antidepressant drug that promised fewer side effects until she discovered her boss, Richard Vale, was falsifying trial data. When she confronted him, he smiled that smooth corporate smile and told her she'd misinterpreted the numbers. A week later, her computer was seized under data breach accusations. HR called her in for questioning. Within a month, she was fired for gross misconduct. The company released a statement hinting she'd manipulated evidence for personal gain. She lost her job, her license, and her reputation overnight, and then came the car crash. Her fiancé, Thomas, was driving home from work when his brakes failed on the motorway. The investigation called it an accident, but Elaine had spent years analyzing chemical residues. She recognized brake fluid tampering when she saw it. She had no proof, only suspicion. Richard Vale was untouchable, rich, connected, and careful. So she disappeared. Beachwell was the perfect place to hide. Small enough to be invisible, quiet enough to plan. She rented a storage unit in the next town, filled it with chemistry equipment bought second-hand. Using the name Lauren Huxley, she took freelance data analysis work online, saved every penny, and studied everything about Richard Vale's company from afar. Every few months, a courier dropped a brown envelope at her door, financial records, leaked emails, small breadcrumbs. She didn't know who the sender was, only that they used the codey name Quill. She didn't trust them, but she followed the trail. One rainy afternoon, while reviewing a new batch of leaked files, she saw a familiar name, Thomas Hale, her late fiancé. His old insurance policy had been quietly bought by a holding company linked to Richard Vale. The payout had gone to an anonymous account in the Cayman Islands. Her hands trembled as she realized Richard had killed Thomas for insurance money and silence. That night, Lauren drove to the cliffs outside Beachwell, the wind slicing across her face. She had a decision to make: spend her life hiding, or take back everything he'd stolen. She chose revenge. Over the next 6 months, Lauren crafted a meticulous plan. Revenge, she knew, wasn't about violence, it was about exposure. She wanted Richard to lose everything the way she had: reputation, career, freedom. She began by creating an online persona, Dr. Claire Donovan, an investor interested in biotech startups. Using a disguised voice and AI-generated profile photos, she contacted Richard's new company, Valistrix Therapeutics. He was flattered that someone with Dr. Donovan's credentials wanted to invest. She asked for detailed reports, financial projections, and internal memos. His team sent everything, but Lauren needed someone on the inside, enter Sophie Vale, Richard's 21-year-old daughter, rebellious and brilliant, but desperate for attention. Lauren met her by chance at a charity auction, introduced herself as a freelance data journalist, and listened as Sophie ranted about her father's arrogance. Within weeks, Sophie was confiding in her daily then. One night, Sophie handed her a flash drive. "He's been hiding something," she said. "Maybe you'll make sense of it." Lauren barely slept that night. The files revealed test results from a new drug trial, dozens of patients hospitalized, some dead. The company planned to pay off the families quietly and falsify the final report. She finally had him. Lauren sent anonymous emails to journalists and regulators, attaching snippets of the leaked data. Then she set up an encrypted server that would auto-release the full documents to every major news outlet in the world if she didn't log in within 72 hours. She knew Richard would trace it back to Claire Donovan, not Lauren Huxley. Within days, Valestrix's stock price plunged. News anchors called it the next big pharma scandal. Richard Vale appeared on TV, all charm and composure, denying the allegations. But Lauren wasn't done. She mailed Sophie a small envelope containing photographs of Thomas's sabotaged car and a note. "Ask your father why my fiancé had to die." Sophie confronted him privately. Their argument turned physical. The housekeeper later testified that Sophie screamed, "You killed people for money," before storming out. That same night, the police arrived at Richard's mansion with a warrant. Someone had tipped them off about an offshore account holding millions in consultancy fees. Richard Vale was arrested at dawn. Lauren watched the breaking news from her living room, tea trembling in her hand. For the first time in years, she felt a strange calm, but revenge has a price. Three days later, a note appeared under her door. It read, "You did well. Quill." Attached was a photo of Richard in handcuffs, and another photo, one of her, sitting in the cafe with Sophie weeks earlier. Someone had been watching her all along. Panicked, she went to the storage unit. Everything was gone. Equipment, files, laptop. The CCTV footage from the facility showed a hooded figure walking in at 3 a.m., using her access code. The next morning, every major outlet received a new leak, one that included not only Richard's crimes but Lauren's entire trail of falsified identities and blackmail messages. The world now saw her not as a whistleblower, but as an obsessed former employee who orchestrated a smear campaign. Richard was guilty. Yes, but she was too. Lauren packed a single suitcase and disappeared again. Weeks later, a small obituary appeared in the Beachwell Gazette. Local woman, Lauren Huxley, found drowned off the coast. But 3 months later, a new channel appeared on the dark web, Quill's Ledger. It began uploading detailed exposes about corrupt corporations, one after another. Each episode opened with the same phrase, "For every lie buried, a truth must surface." Some say it's a journalist. Others whisper it's Dr. Elaine Parker alive, watching from somewhere no one can trace. Revenge can feel like justice, a way to reclaim control after someone's stolen everything from you. But the truth is, it always costs more than it pays. Lauren got her justice, yes, but in the process she lost her peace, her identity, and maybe even her soul. Sometimes when you stare too long at the people who wronged you, you start to become a reflection of them. So if you've ever been betrayed, lied to, or pushed to the edge, remember this. Not every fight deserves your fire. Some victories are better won by walking away, not burning everything down. Because the sweetest revenge is peace, and peace, unlike vengeance, never needs to hide.